LA readers, welcome back to the LA Reads podcast. We're your hosts, Abby
and Leighton, and this is episode 12.
Wow.
Is that right?
No, that was right. Wow. Wait, does that mean it's been 3 months?
Let me do some quick math in my head. 3 months.
Yes. Wow. Wait, that does not feel like it's been that many months since we've started this.
I know. That feels like a long time, but then you say 12 episodes, and that feels really short. Like, that's not very many.
I feel like it's a lot.
Really?
Kinda. Honestly, I just didn't think we were going to make it this far, so I'm impressed with us.
I don't think anybody really knows the origin story of this, but literally we texted each other and just talked about it, and we're like, we should do this. I think it was on a Thursday or something. Film that Saturday.
Yeah, like we threw it together so fast.
Yeah, so I thought maybe it would fizzle out with time, but no, we're staying strong.
We're doing great. I'm so proud of us. All right, as always, let's start with what we read. I will start because mine is literally so short. I have read one book this week.
Love it.
Yep. I read King of Pride from the King of Sin series.
Oh my gosh, Kai!
That one by far. I'm in the middle of King of Greed, and it's not my fave.
Yes.
Don't love that one, but King of Pride, I loved.
Wait, I love that you love it because I actually went on what is that series called?
King of Sin.
King of Sin series. I also went on a kick because this week I read. Well, first I read part 2 of the Savior series that I started last week.
Okay.
And then I read Yours Truly and Just for the Summer by Abi Jimenez.
Did you like Just for the Summer?
I did. However, I don't know how to describe her books besides like emotional damage. They are not fun. They are kind of difficult to read because, I mean, Just for the Summer, she has like a mom that she got put in foster care for neglect.
Oh. And
her mom keeps coming back to her and she has to deal with that. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of a deep topic.
You're like, oh, okay, this isn't like fluffy.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be kicks and giggles and I was on the verge of tears. And it was the same thing for Yours Truly. And
yeah, I read Yours Truly before.
Yeah, but I liked them both, but I don't know if they're books that I would pick up again to read for fun.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I read them. And then I randomly read something called The Perfect Villain because it was free on Audible.
Oh,
cannot recall a single thing about that book. And then I read The Love Wager, which I know you've read before, which I thought that was super cute.
I like that.
It was like a nice palate cleanser. I don't know if I would read it again, but I liked it.
Yes.
And then I read King of Greed and King of Sloth.
Oh, wait, was that the first time you read King of Greed?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had read it already.
No, I got it, but I was so turned off by the trope because it's a second chance romance between a married couple.
Yes.
And nothing in that tickles my brain the right way.
No, quite literally, he gave me the ick from the beginning, and I was like, I'm sure I've been pushing through. We're doing some serious skimming, I'm going to be honest, of King of Greed right now. But the series as a whole is really interesting to me. I love the billionaire vibe that we have going on with the book series, but and I really like her. I like Alessandra, or however you say her name. But yeah, him, whatever the first, Dominic, no thank you.
I was the same way. I read King of Greed and I thought, maybe that's like a 3-star for me.
Yeah.
Read King of Sloth, and I think for me it goes King of Wrath is my favorite, then King of Sloth, then King of Pride, and then King of Greed.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, okay, I'm so excited to read King of Sloth then.
Yes, it's very good.
So exciting. Wow, why did we kind of overlap with our reading this week?
I know, we didn't even plan that, guys.
No, we didn't.
That was good.
Oh, I did also pick up Hunger Games for the first time, and I started it, but for some reason, I have struggled to get into fantasy. I don't know what is wrong with me. I have now tried to, force myself through multiple fantasy books in the past couple of months, and I just cannot get into it. Also, I know it's dystopian, but same difference. Anyways.
Same difference, yeah.
So, we're working through it, but it's a slow rolling book.
Yeah, sometimes you just get in those funks where, I mean, for me, there's a lot of romance books that you can pick up that are really easy, 300 pages.
Yeah.
You don't have to put very much thought into reading them.
No brain cells are used when I read romance books.
Yes, exactly. So then I go and I crack open the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, and I read for maybe 20 minutes, and I say, I can't do this.
No, my brain capacity just cannot handle that, and I don't know. I don't know what is up with me in fantasy recently. I just cannot get into it for some reason. I think that's like the curse of like if you read too much romance in a row, you're like it's hard to go back to fantasy because yeah, you get used to just the dumb, easy reads, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to turn on my brain to read this now.
I find myself in that rut constantly.
It's fine. Anyways, okay. Well, this is thrilling. Also, side note, I was supposed to get my edits back for my book today.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple days ago, she said that she needed some extra time. So now I'm not getting my edits back until June 1st. I have to wait 3 more weeks.
Shoot, that's like a lot of time. I thought she was going to say, a week.
No, well, she said it's because her laptop broke and she has to get it fixed. And all of her notes and everything are all on her laptop.
You're like, I sure hope those are all intact.
Yeah, I was like, those better be freaking intact. Anyways, I'm a little stressed about it, but it's fine. Anyways, she's like, is June 1st okay? And I was like, yeah, that's fine.
You're like, I guess I'm not in a super big hurry, but also I've been dying to hear back from you.
Yeah, so anyways, we'll see how that one goes. So now I won't have more updates for a while, but
hey, that's still exciting though.
We're getting there.
Yes, slowly but surely.
Anyways, all right. We decided that after a very long few weeks of deep diving into a bunch of books and the SGM universe that we needed a break and needed something a little bit more chill. So today we are literally just going to share our top recommendations for YA, for adult, and for romance.
Yes.
And we're just going to share our top 3 recommendations, give you some insight, and hope that you have a grand old time. So
yeah, feel free to pick them up and then let us know what you think.
I know.
For sure.
I'm so excited. Okay, we're going to start with YA. We kind of decided most likely all of the YA and adult top categories are all going to be like fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian.
Yes.
So what is your first YA fantasy, dystopian, sci-fi rec?
Yeah, all of the things. Okay, Okay, which one do you want to start with? YA or...
YA.
Okay. I'm going to take the easy one.
Oh, no.
As number 1. I'm going to recommend Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Which, if you've listened to our podcast before, we sing nothing but praises for Powerless by Lauren Roberts.
Yes.
However, my mom started reading it.
Oh, cute.
Because I recommended it.
Uh-huh.
And I was interested to see how she liked it because I'm well aware it's not the most original book to ever exist. It's like a modge podge of every basic top 3 trope. And it's very similar to the Hunger Games. Yes. I hear all of this criticism. It's noted. I don't care. I still love it. And I was asking my mom about it, and she's about 60% of the way through it. Mm-hmm. And even she's liking it quite a bit.
Wow.
And for the record, my mom is over 50. So I won't give her exact age. Love you, Mom. But so I think it's not, though it's YA, it's not necessarily a book that's for people who are younger.
Yeah. I definitely think it's definitely, they call it, they've started using the term YA crossover. So basically what that means is it's the content in it is YA. There's not spicy scenes or things like that, but it can market to an older group of people. And I would say that's what Powerless is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, this is just reminding me that I forgot I did read Powerful this week.
Oh, yes!
And I uncontrollably sobbed. Go on my TikTok, you will see the video. I am sobbing. Uncontrollably sobbing.
I have not picked it up yet, but I'm so excited to.
It was so bad. I was gonna put Powerless, but it's not a complete series, and I was nervous to put a series that only has 1 book out so far.
Put a nice little asterisk next to it. TBD, we'll see.
But I have faith. I truly have faith in that book series.
Oh, 100%. And also Kai Azar is one of the best book boyfriends.
Worth the read.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. So my first rec, I didn't know if we would consider this romance or if we would consider this dystopian fantasy. I'm not really sure. But just my number 1 book recommendation that's YA that I'm if you want to get into reading, read this book, is the selection.
The minute you said that, I said, I know exactly where this is going.
So I don't know if that would be considered romance or not, but I've always considered it fantasy because it's more like dystopian type.
Yeah, it is dystopian.
Yeah, so, but I just love it, and it's literally the easiest read ever. I can read, like, all of the books in one day.
Oh, yeah, it was one of the first series I picked up.
Same.
And I went and I bought the first book, hardcover, came back, read it in a day, went to Barnes & Noble the next day, bought the second one, read it in a day, went to Barnes & Noble the third day, read it in a day, literally 3 days, 3 books. It was so easy. They're all like 350 pages
so
or less.
Short, but they are iconic.
Oh my gosh, yes. And Maxon.
It's my fave book boyfriend.
Yes. He's so cute.
Yeah, so that was like, we've talked about it before. That was kind of like one of the first book series that got me into reading, but it's just such an easy read that I recommend it all the time. I love it.
It has a who did this to you trope, but like a reverse.
Yes.
Who did this to you?
It's so good.
It's so good.
Anyways, okay, what's your second rec?
Okay, I keep closing my phone because, to be honest, it's at 10%.
Oh.
So,
I am recalling mine from memory when I wrote them in my notes, so we'll see if I can keep remembering them.
That is so impressive. Holy cow. Okay, my next one is Scythe by Neil Shusterman, which
I haven't read that yet.
I don't think you can see it in frame anymore because I read it on my bookshelves, but you used to because it's on my favorite shelf over here. But I will say, I like fun, fluffy books. Sometimes I'm not really into the deep, thought-provoking books.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law recommended this to me. And when I first picked it up, I was thinking, this is not my cup of tea. Like, good freaking chance. However, it's so good. The whole series is so good. I think a lot of people, you read series and you'll say, oh, this one book was really good, but then the second one wasn't great. No, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Incredible. I almost died at the end of the second one because something happens at the end where you have this realization where Neil Shusterman must have had every single thing scripted for all 3 books, start to finish, before he even started writing the first one. Because it's so interconnected.
Really, it is?
Yes. Some of the best writing I've ever seen. I will say there is a romance in it. Romance is not Neil Shusterman's thing. Me, who's an avid romance reader, I even thought, you know what? I think it could have been better if they were just friends. So, not a great romance. However, I do not want that to deter you. It is so freaking good. It's such a unique concept. It comes with book club questions in the back.
Oh, that's so fun.
And they're questions that my family does what we call TV book club, which is so funny because you do not have to pick a TV show. It can be movie, podcast, books, whatever. I recommended the Scythe series. Everybody in my family read it. I have 2 brother-in-laws, 2 sisters, obviously my parents. Everybody loved it so much. Every single person went on to read the second and the third book.
Oh, okay, and also I feel like that book series, I haven't read it myself, but I've only ever heard good things about it. Like, I've never heard someone go on TikTok or anywhere and be like, this book was not good. Like, everyone that I hear talk about it, they're like 5-star reader, like, just like love it.
Yes.
So I need to read it because because that's like one of like the few I feel like popular YA fantasy books that I have not read.
Yeah, if you like almost like dystopian, it kind of gives me, if you read The Giver.
Oh, yeah,
kind of, but The Giver's made for what, 6th grade, something like that. It's like aged up to the appropriate for adults.
Oh, okay.
So good.
Wait, I love that. I need to add, I have the first book, but I need to read that book series because I've heard lots of good things about it.
Yes.
Okay, my second book series is one of my favorite book series of all time.
Oh, no.
It was like one of my top book series of 2023. It's called The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. Wait, did you finish that, by the way?
No, but it's right there. I bought it in honor of Abby because I'm going to read it.
Thank you. Well, okay, here's the thing, is that, also, you should know something about me, is that YA fantasy is just where I belong. Like, that is, like, the category that I have the most books of and that I've read the most of. And The Prison Healer, by far, is one of the best book series, just in general, that I have read, but by far, definitely, like, top 3, obviously, YA fantasy books that I've ever read. It is so good. It's, every book, like, kind of like Scythe 2, is, like, they're all entertaining, and they all have, like, really good plot twists, a lot of interconnected things. Like, every single book on its own is so good, which I absolutely love, because I feel like it's really hard sometimes when you find book series that I'm like, okay, the first book was fantastic and then the second and third book were bad, or it's like the first book, like, you have to push through the first book to get to the second book that's really good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like a lot of times most book series like don't have strong books in all of them.
All of them,
but the Prison Healer does. So good.
They're kind of short, it looks like.
Yeah, they're pretty short. They're not like crazy. And they're really entertaining, so I was able to fly through them. And they just have specific scenes and stuff that I just think about all the time. And I'm like, I just love it.
Wait, can you give me like a 2-sentence synopsis of what actually goes on? Because I don't even know what the premise is.
Oh, okay. Well, the first book where it starts is she is in a prison and is the healer at the prison.
Really?
Yes. And the rebel queen gets imprisoned, and she is like essentially in a coma, and the rebel queen is required to like basically participate in these trials, and the prison healer Kiva decides that she is going to basically do the trials in the queen's place while she heals her. So Kiva does the 4 challenges. It's so good.
I do love a good trials trope.
Yes, it's a trials trope. It's so good. And Lynette just has really like intricate writing, and just the way that she like interconnects everything too. It's very similar. Like, I feel like she had to have everything scripted. But like a lot of times when you read so much, you catch on, you're like, oh, I see that coming from a mile away. But there was so many things that I just did not see coming, and I was like, no freaking way. Or like maybe it was like a thought that passed, but it was not something that I was like overly confident in. You know what I mean? So I think it's such a good slept on book series. I need to reread it, actually. I was thinking about this the other day.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard a lot about it on Book Talk or anything like that.
And it's so good. So I've been like, I post like every couple months like a video about it, being like, y'all, you need to read this book series.
Yes, you're like, I'm doing you a favor.
Yes.
Pick this up.
Anyways, I love the book series.
Okay.
What's your last one?
Oh, I'm so torn. I literally, like I said, or like Abby said, her genre is YA fantasy. I would say I'm more of a romance reader. However, definitely YA fantasy over adult fantasy. So I have so many still that I want to recommend. I think originally I was going to recommend Shatter Me because I love Shatter Me.
That's a solid one as well.
And Unravel Me, if you watched our 5-star video, Unravel Me was a 5-star read for me. Which, however, I think that's a really popular series, and I don't think that's one I need to shed more light on. People know. Aaron Warner, that's all you need to know.
We know him.
Yes. So I think I'm going to go to my next one, and that's Fireborn by Rosaria Munda.
I have the first 2 books. I need to read these because you told me about them, and I need to know more.
I will say I haven't finished the series yet. For our TV book club that my family did, I always try and pick things that my dad and my 2 brother-in-laws can like as well.
Yes.
Which, as a romance reader, 99% of my books don't fall under that category.
Did you make them read Fourth Wing?
I did make my family read Fourth Wing, and they were befuddled. They were unwell. So, I did suggest Fireborn because a lot of people recommended it to me as Fourth Wing, but YA and in cursive font. It has a little bit more of that adult fantasy writing style.
Oh, interesting.
But it's still YA content. You have obviously dragons, Dragon Academy, Dragon Trials, very similar to Fourth Wing. However, very appropriate for everyone.
Yes.
Especially boys. Boys can read it too and enjoy it. I know,
which we love.
I know boys read Fourth Wing and like it as well, but the specific boys in my family did not. But I'm currently reading the second one, which is there's Fireborn, Flamefall, and Fury Song. And my dad just finished the entire series. And he was like, wow, that was such an incredible pick for book club. It was so good.
Did your dad beat you?
I know. He beat me to finishing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, Dave, slow down. But it has a very intricate political system. I think Fourth Wing, the emphasis is on maybe more so the romance.
Yeah.
For this one, the romance is a lot more on the back burner. There is a romance on the back burner, though, and it's a very heavily like lots of political intrigue. The author, I believe, went to Stanford and got her PhD in political science or political systems or something. So it's all very accurate and intricate.
Interesting.
Anyways,
that's so cool.
I've already spoke about it too much. However, it did make me sob because the main character experiences a very difficult conflict where he has to choose a side, and I myself felt so torn.
The main perspective is a guy.
Yeah, main perspective is a guy. There's two perspectives, I believe, Lee and Annie.
Oh, okay.
But you mostly follow Lee, and he has to make a really difficult choice. And I was sobbing because if I were in his position, I would have made the wrong choice 100%, shamelessly. But I cannot recommend it enough. It's incredible.
This is making me, I'm frick, I need to, go home. I need to, grind out all these books now.
Yeah, I read the audiobook, too, and the audio is just chef's kiss.
Okay, that's nice to know, too. Okay, my last rec, I was deciding because there's so many books that I've read, but there's also so many, YA fantasy books that I know I've loved before, but I, haven't read it in a long time. But I feel like this book series, I have read it enough times that I think I know it's a good book rec, is the Children of Blood and Bone series.
Oh, yes.
Because you've read the first one, right?
Yes. And I own the second one, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, okay. And then the third one is finally coming out this year. She had, basically, a 5-year gap between the second and this one coming out. But this was, my bread and butter. I loved this book series in high school. And then I reread it last year. I can't even remember a ton about it, but I just think that it has a really intricate magic system.
Oh, yes.
Which I love. And it also has, a very, slow burn romance as well, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that it's hard to find YA books that have easier writing style but still satisfy your desire to have more intricate magic systems and relationships and plotting, you know what I mean? And I feel like with that book it does have that. So I just think it's such a good intro to fantasy, especially with magic systems and things like that, because it's definitely a lot more intricate, but it's still easy to follow and understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
I know I loved it. It's on my TBR right now, my recent TBR to reread it. So I'm probably gonna read Hunger Games, and I'm probably gonna reread Children of Blood and Bone. Mm-hmm. So I'll change my mind because it's been a while since I've read it, but up until now, I love it.
No, I really liked it too. I liked it enough that I remember sometime in high school, it must have been freshman or sophomore year or something, I did it as a book report, and I did a giant portrait of Zelly, the main character, as you had to bring a physical representation or something.
Yeah.
And I painted her for my...
Wow.
So I definitely had a phase where I was loving that book.
I know. I'm a little bit nervous that if I reread it, I'm going to be like, oh, what is this?
Oh, garbage. I always have that fear when I'm recommending.
I have that fear too with the Lunar Chronicles too, because I know I devoured that book series when I was in high school, but I couldn't tell you anything that happens in it, and I'm like, what if it's bad?
I read Cinder and Scarlet and Cress, I think a year and a half ago, really? So not that long ago, and I really liked them.
Oh, we love when books stand the test of time.
Well.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Next, we're going to do our adult fantasy dystopian sci-fi book recs, but we were both just discussing prior to filming that we realized that adult fantasy is not actually something that we read very often, and that we may not have very many recs. So,
yeah, they're going to be really interesting. So,
question, did you have SJM on your list?
Literally, my top two are Throne of Glass and Fourth Wing, but I feel like those are cop-outs.
Okay, well, those were mine as well, so...
I figured. I put them on, and I was like, I'm shamelessly gonna put these, but once again, I don't think those are series that we really need to plug.
Let's just get this out of the way now, okay? Sarah J. Maas is by far one of our top recommendations for adult fantasy, yes. and I know we both agree. I recommend starting with ACOTAR. What would you recommend?
I would probably say the same thing. I personally started with Throne of Glass, and I think for that reason, I didn't like ACOTAR as much as everybody else. Still one of my favorite series of all time. However, Throne of Glass is my favorite, so I started with my favorite and didn't end it on a lower note.
Wait, that's so sad.
But yes, I would say ACOTAR is the easiest one to get into, and definitely ending with Crescent City, because that is just
that is so much.
If you have not read Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, you're going to be confused.
Also, I think it depends on who you are, because if you're someone that's getting into reading, you want to pick up a book, ACOTAR by far is the one that you should pick up. But if you're someone that's versed in fantasy, you can definitely go to Throne of Glass. Just my thing is always just read ACOTAR before you read Crescent City. So.
I 100% agree. I think ACOTAR is a lot more romance focused.
Yeah.
Romantasy, and Throne of Glass is a lot more fantasy romance. And I think a lot of people prefer romance heavy, so it's really easy to get into ACOTAR.
But I heard that if you're, especially guys that probably like Brandon Sanderson, things like that, they like Throne of Glass.
Yes, I 100%.
And that definitely has the best plotting. Anyways, you all know our thoughts about those books. You can go watch all of our episodes about SJM if you need to. The other adult rec that we both have, and I know we both have, is Fourth Wing. Technically, Fourth Wing is new adult. It's like an in-between of YA and adult, but it's essentially adult because it has language and erotica spice, but it's just so dang good.
Yes, I will say I actively fought the Fourth Wing hype. Like,
yes,
I remember the day it showed up on TikTok and everybody was losing their minds, and I was like, what is this freaking series? And I actively did not pick it up for months because I was not going to buy into it. And finally, I just did it. I binged the whole thing, I think, in 1 to 2 sittings. I think Fourth Wing is incredible. Iron Flame, I didn't like as much. However, still the series so far as a whole, I think, is super enjoyable.
Yes.
So,
I mean, like we said, Fourth Wing is not a finished series, so they're supposed to be... She just literally made a video about this the other day, too, where she was like, it's plotted for 5. Like, she had to, like, write an entire synopsis for the entire series of like where it's going, and it was 4 or 5. She's like, could be more, you never know what's gonna happen, but she's like, so there's supposed to be 3 more books in the series technically, so I'm like, it could definitely change, but I have a feeling that it'll be good. So
yeah, I'm definitely invested enough to be at least reading the next one for sure. I guarantee you we'll both finish the entire series. So
I just wanted to come out faster.
Yes, please.
Anyways, outside of those recommendations, what else do you have?
Okay, my first recommendation is What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yes, I can't remember exactly what I got recommended or who recommended it to me as what. Sorry, that literally made no sense. Try that one more time. But somebody, I think, recommended it to me as ACOTAR meets The Bachelor.
Interesting.
Or like Bachelorette, and I said, say less. Bye. I do not care. I would not agree with that assessment. However, I still think it's really good.
Yes.
Pretty much the thing that got me to pick it up or really enjoy the first one, because it is a 3-book series, is there's kind of a veil that separates the humans and the fae, and there's a point where it falls, and every fae has a human mate, and they're marked as soon as the veil falls. And then the fae become more powerful if they find their human mate. So then they're marked and they're hiding from the fae because they've been taught from a young age that they're really scary, you know, whatever. They don't want to be these people to them.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you're following a girl that's being hunted and running away, and
dang.
It's pretty crazy. I haven't gotten to the 3rd one yet. I'm waiting for it on Libby currently. But I read the first one, loved it. I think read it in 1 day.
Oh, okay.
Read the second one, really enjoyed the second one as well. I think if you like ACOTAR, you'll like this. Okay. I wouldn't say they're the same, but I think they cater to the same audience. But
that makes sense.
Definitely would recommend.
Yeah. Honestly, the only other, like, not only other, I read a couple, like, this is my issue, is that a lot of the adult fantasy books that I've read, I've only read the first book in. So
yes.
I read the first book in A Darker Shade of Magic.
I did too.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I've heard that the series is really good, but I read the first one, it was okay. The magic system is sick. The world is crazy cool. So that would be like a half rec. My, like, only other person that I like, the only other books that I'm, like, confident in is anything by Carissa Broadbent, which is The Serpent and the Wings of Night and Daughter of No Worlds. Those are my first 2 recommendations. I've actually only read the first book of Daughter of No Worlds, but my friends just finished the book series, and both of them were like, it's so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I've been re-listening to the first one because I haven't read it in almost a year, so then I can keep reading the series, but I loved Serpent and the Wings of Night. I thought it was really good.
Well, with Daughter of No Worlds, because I read both of them as well.
Oh, okay.
Daughter of No Worlds, I'm going to make a comparison that I don't know if many people agree with, but in my head, Serpent in the Wings of Night is ACOTAR and Daughter of No Worlds is Throne of Glass. Like, if...
Oh, interesting.
Serpent in the Wings of Night is obviously a trials kind of scenario thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot more romance heavy.
Yeah.
Where Daughter of No Worlds, I think, is a lot more fantasy heavy.
Yeah.
So I think they're similar in that aspect. I personally preferred Daughter of No Worlds.
Yeah.
But I've only read the first one as well.
Yeah.
I loved Tasana.
Yeah, I loved the first book. I thought it was so good. So I'm like, and I've heard people say too, where they're like, there was so much focus on Serpent in the Wings of Night, but like they're like, pay attention to Daughter of No Worlds because the fantasy aspect of it is so good. So, anyways, those are like 2 of my recs. Sorry, I combined those into 2.
No, I have those both on the shelf right here. I agree. I almost put those as well, but I figured you were going to put them.
Yes.
So I figured I would just add my 2 cents and say, agreed.
But I think that's literally all my adult recs because I really haven't read anymore. I have books that I want to read, but I haven't read them yet.
My other one that I was going to say is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco.
Is that not YA?
I'm torn because it's adult writing and there's spice.
But it's in the YA section.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you're looking for a true YA book, don't read it because I recommended it to my parents and they about threw a fit. Not in like a bad way, because my dad read the first one and said, not my cup of tea. My mom read the whole series and she was like, there are some choice scenes in there.
It's spicy?
Oh, yeah. The first one is not.
Oh, okay.
So I read the first one, recommended it because I was like, oh, I enjoyed it so much. And then it gets really spicy in the second and third one.
Oh, interesting. Interesting choice.
Yes. So I guess it's technically not adult. I always have a hard time categorizing them because to me, if it has spice in it, it should be considered adult because
Same.
I'm not going to recommend, these super spicy adult books to family and friends.
And to 13-year-olds, which is what YA is supposed to be.
Yeah. So maybe put an asterisk next to this one as well.
If it has spice, I agree with you. I'm a strong believer. If it has spice, it's adult. So,
but my favorite thing about it is her writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's a very, very descriptive writer. I'm not sure if it's everybody's cup of tea because, for example, the main girl works at a family restaurant and she goes really in depth of like what the food tastes like, what the food looks like, what everything around her looks like. And it's a lot of vibes and a lot less plot.
Interesting.
So if that's not your cup of tea, maybe it's not for you. But I think I've heard similar things with like Caraval where people will say, oh, it's like the world's really cool and the vibes are really cool, but maybe it's not the most plot heavy.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing here. However, I read all 3 books. I did the dramatized audio of all 3 of them. They're some of my favorite audiobooks that I've ever read.
Oh, cool.
But they're all available on Libby if you have a library card. That's where I read mine. But I've been wanting the box set really bad because I think I'm going to reread it for a second time.
Oh. It's good if Leighton wants to reread a book.
Well, I don't know, because I'm a chronic rereader. I get like an itch, and it will be a book that I haven't read in ages, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just reread it. Why not?
I have the books, but and I think I actually had Kingdom of the Wicked. I have it requested on Libby right now. I've been waiting for it to come, so it's coming. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you know if I like it.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's specific to an audience, and if you happen to fall into that audience, which I do, you'll love it.
Okay, interesting. Do you have any other adult recs? Because that was kind of all I will say the books that I have been wanting to read that are adult are Jade City, because I heard really good things about Jade City.
My brother-in-law praises Jade City.
Yes. So Jade City and Red Rising is also the other adult fantasy book that I really want to read that I haven't yet. Yes. Those were kind of like the 2 that I'm like, I need to get on that eventually. Yeah,
I just bought Red Rising, the whole series. Well, the first 3 books in the series. I also just bought Steelheart.
Oh, yeah.
The first 3 books. Well, I think it is only 3 books, but they're right behind me. I got those as well. I just barely started Elantris, by Brandon Sanderson because it was free on Audible when everything went up for free for some unknown reason, which I'm not complaining about.
Yes.
But I have Elantris that I really want to read, Jade City. I have started, but I haven't finished Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. It's a really interesting book because it's all told in the format of a guy sitting at a bar recalling everything that happened to him, which is like a really unique format. But all the guys in my family have read it, loved it. I read the first 200-300 pages before I had to go on a trip, and it's literally massive, so I couldn't take it with me. And I was really liking it as well. So definitely all of those.
We have potential here with the adult fantasy. We just need to read more of it.
Yeah. Find time and brain cells.
Yes, and
to actually be able to read it.
And brain cells.
Yeah.
All right. Our last category that we're going to give Rex to is romance, which I know that we both are going to have a lot of Rex.
Yes.
This was hard for me to narrow it down to 3.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to cook.
You go first.
Okay.
Go start cooking.
I don't even have to look at my notes because I have one romance book that is my favorite romance book of all time. I don't know if I'll ever be able to top it. It's so good. And I've said it 100 times on this podcast before. But The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford.
Oh, this is the Windy City series.
Yep. Book number 2 in the Windy City series. And honestly, I would recommend the entire Windy City series. They are interconnected standalones. You can read just the second one. However, you are going to get cameos of all the other characters.
Yeah.
Well, not the third because they come later, but from the first book. All of them, absolutely incredible. I have read, I think, the first book 3 times. The Right Move, I think I'm almost on 6 or 7. Obsessed. I've read this last book 2 times. The 4th book is coming, I believe, in July or something like that.
Goodness.
Yes, absolutely incredible. Ryan Shea, Indy Ivers. It's a roommates to lovers, also best friends, brother type scenario. Also sports romance. He's in the NBA. She's a flight attendant. It's all very, very good. Ryan Shea is one of the book boyfriends where he can just do no wrong because I think he's written so well. Because some of them I objectively know. There's so many red flags here, but I'm still obsessed with you.
Yes.
But like, if he were to become real, he would be a 10 out of 10 book boyfriend.
Wow.
I cannot.
Realistic, real good boyfriend.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And Indy Ivers, the female main character, she's one of my favorite female main characters too because she's not. Sometimes authors really lean into like quirky, and slightly annoying. And I say I don't really like the female main character. No, she's hilarious. She's a little bit weird, but in a good way.
Yeah,
a lot different than a lot of the other female main characters. She's really independent. Long story short, I aspire to be her. I aspire to live The Right Move. It is so good.
Wait, I love that.
Sorry for my rant.
No, I think it's great. Also, I'm going to be honest here right now. Almost all my recommendations are interconnected standalone series because you will best believe I'm not going to be able to choose a specific book in a series. So my first recommendation, we should all know this, is the Chestnut Spring series.
I knew where that was going.
Yeah, because here's the thing is, 1, cowboys, love. Also, I've now read a couple interconnected standalone series. So for those of you who don't know what that means, interconnected standalones within romance basically means that each book is about a different couple and their different stories. But as you move on to like, if the book series is a 4-book series, by the 4th book, all 3 couples from the other books make cameos. Usually it's like in the Chestnut Spring series, it's all brothers essentially.
Yeah.
So they all overlap and their stories overlap as the books go on.
Yeah, you get a lot of found family usually towards the end of the books because you're slowly collecting people. Yeah.
So Chestnut Spring series is a cowboy romance type book series. It's a 5-book series, and it's just so good. I've now read a couple, and it's by far the best one that I've read.
Oh, 100%. I know my personal favorite is the second one, Heartless.
Yes.
Is yours Reckless?
Mine's Reckless, but Heartless and Reckless both are like so close together. I love both of them.
I will say though, I hate it when people recommend me a series and they're like, oh, power through the first book or power through the first two. No, I don't want to power through anything. I just want a good book. I think Flawless is the perfect first book to get you introduced to the series, just because I say my favorite's the second one and Abby's favorite is the fourth one. Does not mean the other books are bad. Like, they're all incredible. Yes. I read them out of order because I'm a psychopath. And I deeply regret it. I would not recommend doing that because I saw everybody talking about how good Reckless was and I didn't want to read anything else, so I went straight to Reckless.
Oh.
I read Flawless, then Reckless, which is book 1 and book 4, which is terrible. But yeah, I 100% agree. Found family aspect, I think, is one of the best I've ever seen.
Yes. And also, okay, I like them too because this is the thing I've noticed about some of the interconnected standalone books that I've read. The King of Sin series is an example of this. They're fun, but it almost feels like every single book is like the same exact thing, essentially, just with different types of tropes, whether that's, friends to lovers or enemies to lovers or second chance, whatever. But with the Chestnut Springs series, I feel like all of the books are very different and their situations are all different. And so I didn't feel like I was like basically reading the same book. I felt like I was reading it. Genuinely felt like I was reading a different book and a different story every time, which I loved because sometimes they can get repetitive, especially when you're reading an interconnected standalone romance book series,
Yeah, I 100% agree. I agree with that comparison too. For example, the King of Sin series, I think it's supposed to be this way, obviously, but like all the men are kind of billionaire type.
Yeah, they're all
people.
the same.
They all feel like copy and paste kind of the same person. Yeah. However, in Chestnut Springs, you get like Rhett, who's a bull rider who needs to fix his image. You get a single dad in the second one. In the third one,
hockey player.
Fourth one, you get...
He's a bull rider, but he's more like happy-go-lucky...
Golden retriever prodigy.
Boy, yes.
In the fifth one, he's coming home from the military.
Yeah,
he's
retired
a veteran.
Military vet.
Yeah, he has PTSD. There's a lot... So I feel like every character is really intricate. Yes. I agree. And they're all so different.
Yeah. So that's why I love it. Anyways, okay, go. Your next one.
My second one was Heartless from Chestnut Springs.
Okay, so Chestnut Springs series.
We did that. But I wrote like 10 just in case. We needed to elaborate.
Yes.
This next one is actually really funny because nobody talks about it. But I would recommend The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy.
I still need to read this.
A lot of people know Elle Kennedy from her Off-Campus series, which The Graham Effect actually follows Gigi Graham, which is the daughter of Garrett Graham, who's the first book in the Off-Campus series. So Garrett Graham and Hannah are book 1, The Deal.
The Deal, yeah. Of
the Off-Campus series. And then The Graham Effect is like a second-gen series following Gigi, her love interest Luke. It's honestly, I was not super excited about it because the premise is Gigi plays hockey in like the women's league, which not in a bad way, but like that just is not my thing.
Yeah.
I like men in hockey because I like hockey players that I think can think about dating fictionally.
Yes.
And so when I heard women in hockey, I was like, oh, interesting, but I still read it. I adore her. She made me want to play hockey. She is everything. Luke is very golden retriever. And I will hint, there's a line where he literally knocks on her door and says, use me.
Mom and Dad, you did not hear this part of the podcast. You may never know the types of books I read.
I literally threw the book across the room. I was screaming. And my husband, he was playing Xbox. And he's like, what is going on? And I was like, on the verge of tears. It's so incredible. I think I read it in 1 to 2 sittings.
That's so
You
awesome.
also get cameos of both Garrett and Hannah because those are her parents, which if you're an OG Off-Campus lover is really, really neat. But the Dixon Rule, which is the second one, comes out here at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think
something
so,
like that. It's one of my most anticipated reads. But I cannot recommend it enough. I think I
need to read it.
I like it more than The Deal. You can read it without reading the Off-Campus series or The Deal. However, I would recommend at least doing The Deal.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I need to read it. I read the deal so I could read the Graham Effect, and then I read the deal, and then I never picked up the Graham Effect, so I need to read it still.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Okay. My next romance book series that I am going to recommend because I can't choose one specific book is the Boys of Toman series.
That was also on my list.
I knew we were going to have overlapping with the romance because I feel like we have very similar tastes, but it is an emotional roller coaster to say the very least.
Oh, yeah.
Also, technically, it's YA, but I just don't believe that for a second because there's so much language in it. But
yeah, and it's
teach their own.
Yeah, it's like maybe the romance is YA, but the actual content is there's
still spice, though. That's what's confusing to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, besides the point, it's deep, it's real, makes you cry, and it's emotional, to say the very least.
Yeah, do not read that book unless you want some emotional damage.
And definitely read the trigger warnings, because I could see how this would be triggering to some people.
Mm-hmm.
It was slightly triggering to me, I'm gonna be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the first two books are about Shannon and Johnny, and Shannon has a bad home life, and they're nervous to get put in the foster care system, things like that, and 3 of my siblings are adopted from bad home situations and things like that. So it is triggering. Like, it's definitely deep.
It's not a light read. It's not a casual read. I picked it up literally because I think I saw like Larissa talk about it randomly, and I didn't know the premise. But then I was browsing Libby, saw it was available, and said, "Oh, Larissa had recommended this. I'll pick it up." I was sobbing by the end of the day.
Yeah, it's definitely deep, but it is so good. I just think sometimes romance books are hard because they have no plot.
Yeah.
The plot is literally just the romance, but I love when characters have like outside plotting outside of like the romance because I think it builds a lot, and that definitely has so much plotting outside of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I also think that what's really interesting, and the book series isn't complete yet. There's 5 out currently, and there's supposed to be quite a few more.
Yeah.
Still, like, she has quite a few planned, but what I find interesting is that yes, they're interconnected standalones, but they are connected a lot, and you can see like the plotting of like sprinkling things in here and there about relationships that haven't even come to fruition yet.
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
like, wow, there was a lot of planning that went into this, and you do not see a lot of planning that goes into romance books that often. So
yeah, and I really love it because you have a full cast of characters that you really like. Obviously, Binding and Keeping 13 are mostly about Shannon and Johnny, but I loved Claire. I loved Gibbsy. I loved all those secondary characters. And yes, they're secondary, but they're still main characters.
Yeah, they become main characters because they get their own books. But
yes.
Anyways, highly recommend.
Yes, I also read the audio version of that, which you'll know is a common theme, and it's so good. And they all have Irish accents because
they live
it's in Ireland, and it was awesome.
All right, what's your next one?
Okay.
Last one. I have to remember what my last one was.
I was so torn between 2, so I'm going to plug both of them, but very briefly.
Okay.
One took me by surprise because I actually didn't really love it until the second time that I read it.
Oh.
But it's Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher.
Oh.
Which a lot of people are not super huge fans or are diehard fans. It's very polarizing of the Dreamland Billionaire series, which is The Fine Print is the first one. I personally read The Fine Print. I did not love it. I read the last one, which I believe is The Final Offer. Did not love it. However, something about the middle book, Terms and Conditions, tickles the right itch so well. It's a workplace romance. He's a billionaire, obviously, for Dreamland, which is essentially Disneyland. And then she's his assistant, and it's a marriage of convenience or like a forced marriage type situation because one of the clauses in order to receive his will is he has to be married.
Oh, interesting.
And like the girl that they hired to marry him ends up backing out, so she does it. So good. I've read a lot of Lauren Asher books. I read the entire Dirty Air series. I didn't love that series until the very last one. I recently read Love Redesigned, which I actually did like. However, long story short, Lauren Asher is not my go-to author.
Yeah.
So the fact that one of her books just like is Chef's Kiss is crazy, but would recommend.
Love.
And then my other one is this one's so funny because
Oh no.
It also took me by surprise.
Okay.
Is Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood.
Yes.
I think I have an issue with hyper fixating on whatever I'm reading about, because the minute I finished this, I wanted to become what is it called? A grandmaster in chess.
Yes.
Because it's literally a chess romance, which sounds so silly, and they advertise it as a sports romance because it's chess, which if you play chess, go you. But I read that and I was like, I'm so interested. It's also YA, which YA romance, I usually read more new adult romance, but so cute. It has a lot of plotting that is not necessarily just the romance, and you get to follow her. They have an interaction when they're super young, and then they reconnect when they're older, and they're chess rivals. And I could talk about it all day, but it's so incredible. It's really short, and it's really easy to read. Yeah. So it's definitely one of those books that you can read as a palate cleanser, but 10 out of 10, would recommend both of them.
I love that. I have two that I'm going to briefly say as well, because my very first romance book that I ever read was Icebreaker. And I still stand by the fact that I think that's a good book series.
Okay. Nate Hawkins. Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I think I just like it because it has a really interesting, I love the found family aspect of it, and also the college world that she built is really interesting to me because it's just so far from the college experience that we had at a Christian university. So
yes,
I think I just like that part in and of itself. So Icebreaker for me was really good, and also I'm so excited for the new one that's coming out in August. That's Daydream that follows Henry, because I love him. So anyways, love Icebreaker. But the other one, which I'm pretty sure you consider it a romance book, is 5 Feet Apart.
Interesting.
Which is so sad. But it was one of the first romance books I ever read in high school, and I loved it.
Yeah. It's
depressing, kind of. And I don't know if you would consider it as romance, but it's in the romance section at Barnes & Noble, so...
Oh, that's definitely a romance.
Yes.
It's like a YA contemporary romance.
Yes, but I think it's so cute, and it's just fluffy, and it's kind of sad, but I don't know. I just one that I think we've forgotten about, and I want to bring it back.
Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because in preparation for this video, I was looking through my TBR bookshelf, which is the app that we use.
Yeah.
All the previous years I've done, and I've been using it for 3 years. So I went to the very beginning, and I think 5 Feet Apart was maybe the second or third book that I ever read when I got into reading. So I don't know if I put that much thought into it, because that was 2018 or whenever when I actually read it. I started, writing them down in 2020 or so.
Yes.
But yeah, that's an interesting choice. I don't know if I can recall it enough to even recommend it, but
I just think it's so cute and so good. Anyways, any other recs?
I will double check. I mean, I could recommend romance all day. I read so many romance books.
This is true. You have
all the time.
Many.
I didn't even include dark romance in here. I thought, another time, another day.
Keep it light.
Yeah, but
wow.
If you want more specific, either fantasy videos, sci-fi, dystopian, romance, whatever genre.
Yes.
I know on our episode request form, we've had some people asking for intro videos, like how to get into romance, how to get into fantasy. I feel
like the recs that we gave today are pretty good, starter books that we would have recommended. Yeah. Anything else?
No, not that I can
Let
think
us
of.
know what you want us to do episodes on, because now we are lost in this world of what to do next.
I know.
Because we don't have SJM to fall back on anymore. So let us know. I think you can comment on our podcast, but if not, you can also DM us on Instagram, or we have an episode request form in our bio.
Yep.
And I will start linking it in our description too. So you can go to the request form in our description to request episodes. That will really help us out.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to cover. We're open to a lot of things, specific books, interviewing authors, genres, tropes, whatever you can think of, I'm sure we will do.
Yes. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you guys next week. Make sure that you follow us on all of our social medias. It's just at LA Reads Podcast for everything. Also, if you're a business and like to sponsor us, you can email us at lareadspod at gmail.com.
Cough, cough, please.
Cough, cough. We want money. Anyways. Just kidding. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that was one of our shortest episodes